Welcome back to the List Building Lifestyle. I'm your host, Igor Kheifets, and today I'm hosting a legend, Ron Legrand. He's a legend in the real estate investing space. He's got more than 3,000 transactions down his belt, and he's a nationally recognized real estate expert and trainer with 27 years of experience in both residential and commercial properties and a 20-year history of hard money lending and brokering. Now, really, this man needs no introduction when it comes to the real estate space and real estate education space. And I've invited him because, as somebody who's been making money online for quite a number of years, I've always gotten the same advice on what to do with my money, and that's put it into real estate. And being living in Canada for the last 7 years, with the real estate market being as crazy as it is here, at least where I live in Toronto, I'm so pumped and so curious to pick his brain on the best approach to real estate investing and everything in between. So, Ron, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me today.
My pleasure. That must be an old bio you're reading. I'm actually entering my 43rd year in this business.
Wow, yeah, that's the one you got on Amazon. So,
okay, so
my bad. Cool. Yeah. So I know you're still very much active. You're definitely the go-to guy when it comes to real estate education, and probably one of the few who actually practices what he preaches. Because as we know, lots and lots of gurus out there in many different industries, who teach people how to do something, they kind of stop doing that. But you're different. You're actually doing it. So can you maybe start off by, for the few who don't know you, share with us how you got into the real estate space and what's it been like for you?
Well, it was 1982, and I was running a service station and broke and hungry and hot and tired and didn't want to do it anymore. And I attended my first seminar. In fact, I had to miss Dallas, J.R. Ewing on TV. For those.
Oh, I remember that. We used to have that in Ukraine. I used to love that show.
He was my hero, man. So that was a hard decision for me to make, but I made it. I went to that first 2-hour preview, and that got me into a 2-day seminar. And of course, I had no idea what I was getting into, but that was a life-changing decision I made back then. And I wonder, looking back, what if I'd have watched JR that night? What would have been different? And, I think over and over throughout the years, how such a little marginal decision that people make at the time, not knowing how big it is, could change everything in your life, good or bad for that matter. So coming out of that seminar, I did a little wholesale deal in 3 weeks and got my first check for $3,000. And that was a spark that got me going. But I quit my job and immediately started doing real estate, where most people just go home, go back to work. In fact, you probably don't know this, but the largest training event that I've ever done, 4-day event, was in Calgary in 2008. We had 460 people in the room, all classroom style, if you can just imagine what that looked like. I mean, it was a sea of people out there. And so a lot of those students are actually still very active. I communicate with them from time to time. So I have folks all over Canada and, of course, all over the United States and quite a bit of the rest of the world.
Yeah, well, Canadians love their real estate.
Yeah.
In fact, I believe the average Canadian's dream is to own a home and to own a cottage. Mm-hmm. And the real estate, people recognize over here that real estate is a way to make money. I know lots of people. I came here, like I said, 7 years ago. I know a lot of people who came from a post-Soviet, area, mm-hmm. Just like myself. So I was born in Ukraine and I grew up in Israel. But mentality is still predominantly, Soviet. When I was growing up, it was still recovering from the wall coming down, and everyone was really hungry and everything. We were watching Hollywood movies on videotapes and drinking Coca-Cola, thinking that's the life. To us that was like a big deal. Like I remember we were buying a Snickers bar and dividing it 4 ways just so me, my brother, my mom, and my dad could eat it. So here it's like people come in, they buy a home, they live in the home, and price goes up, and that's basically their retirement. But that's probably where most will stop doing real estate. There's very few people who will actively engage in it, mm-hmm. as a business. Very few people do wholesaling on this side of the border. Of course, I know wholesaling, is pretty popular in America. So, what are you seeing today? Like when you look at the market today, is the market changed? Are we too late? Is it too late to make money in real estate? Are all the hot opportunities gone? Is the market cold, or is the market too hot? Like, what's going on?
The answer is it doesn't matter. When I started in 1982, the prime rate was over 16%. We were in a recession, and I've been through 6 of them ever since. And not one of those years could I not buy houses. And it doesn't make any difference what the economic climate is or who's in office, who's running the government. None of that really matters. What matters is that we take care of our own house so we don't have to worry about what's going on with folks that we can't control. The only control we got is to vote. So I don't have any time to even think about all of that. So over the years, I've learned that people are always going to need a place to live. People are always going to want to sell. Others are always going to want to buy. And the outside economics will affect that, but they certainly will not stop that. In fact, I could make you a case that the worse the economy gets, the easier our business is, because the more motivated people are to sell and the more motivated people are to buy that can't go to a bank and get qualified because of economic downturns in their life. So real estate is one of those things that's always going to be here. It's not a fad. It's not going to come and go. And it's a stable income. Not only does it create big checks now, but also you can do deals and you get paid for years and years and years in the future on them. We call that the terms business. Of course, we do the wholesaling and we do the rehabbing and the retailing as well. But my favorite part of the business is the terms business because of all of the goodies that we get out of it. If we do an ugly house, we get one check and we're done, and we got to give the government a good chunk of that, and your government too. And
our government loves taking a chunk. They just increased, literally just like a few days ago, I think they just increased the capital gain to 75% or
what?
something. Yeah.
Golly, I don't know how. I don't get that. Well, that makes a case not to sell then.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm really, honestly, people think it's all about buying and flipping and getting a check. And, there's a lot of that going on. And in your case, you do have to pay taxes on it. But the real money is in not selling the houses, because you get appreciation, which is big. It's made a lot of people rich the last 3 or 4 years. You get depreciation. You get the debt pay down. You get the monthly cash flow. And when I put a tenant buyer in a house, if they don't buy the house, they lose their non-refundable option deposit, which is measured in the thousands, not in the hundreds, because it's an option deposit, not a security deposit. If they don't buy, they lose it. If they buy, they get it credited toward their down payment or their purchase price. So we get all these goodies by not selling that we'll never get by just selling. I call them our golden geese. So that's why it's my favorite part of the business. Do it once and keep getting paid for years. I got one house right now I use for an example because it's a perfect example. I bought it 10 years ago. In fact, it's right up the street from my home. I took over a loan for $351,000. That's my purchase price. The house was worth about $385,000 then. I closed on it within a week. I put a tenant buyer in it, and I priced it at $395,000. Put a tenant buyer in it. They gave me $50,000 upfront deposit, non-refundable. Lived in it 2 years. I netted $575 a month for those 2 years. And then they moved out and forfeited the deposit. And then ever since then, my executive assistant has been renting it from me. But that was 10 years ago. So listen to this. During that 10-year period, that house has netted me, with all those things I just described, $650,000. And the value on it, by the way, is almost $700,000. So that thing has made me $650,000, and I still own the house. Okay, so the benefits just keep on growing. So that's how you get rich in real estate, not by flipping. Look, we all flip because that cash coming in is kind of handy, and But remember, when I put some tenant buyer in a decent home, they're going to give me no less than 5% of that purchase price down, no less than that. So in this case, I got $50,000 down on a $400,000 house. I even got more than 10%. Nicer the house, the bigger the down payment. And I do all this without risk. I don't guarantee debt. I teach people not to guarantee debt. It's the biggest mistake they can make, because if you guarantee debt, you're always going to be a slave to the lender when things don't go right, that you can't control. And of course, I've been around long enough where I've seen a whole lot of people go out of business because they guaranteed debt, whether it be in residential and commercial. But we learned to buy properties without guaranteeing debt. We don't go to the bank. We don't need anybody's approval to buy a house except the seller's. So we either buy with seller financing, which we also do in Canada. It's called an agreement for sale up there. And/or we lease it with an option to buy. And we own the house. And from then on, and our financing comes with the house. We don't have to go beg for money. We don't fill out any applications. So that house and several others that I've got very similar to it have been producing income. And nowhere on public record is my name. Now, you guys can't use land trust up there. You use LLCs for the most part. Either way, solves the same issue, and that is nobody knows what I own. Search public record, you'll never find my name there. That was a long answer to that question, wasn't it?
Yeah, and got me curious. Can you tell us a little bit more about the terms business? And it obviously seems to be a more lucrative way to make money in real estate than buying and flipping.
Well, it's a way to make money without risking anything. When I buy a house on terms, I sometimes have to pay the closing costs because the seller gets little or no money. Sometimes I have to put up a down payment, but that down payment is never going to be larger than what I think I can get out of the non-refundable deposit from the tenant buyer, which will be in the house in less than 30 days after I buy it. So I get a front end profit there. And I don't leave money in real estate. I don't mind putting money in it as long as I know I'm going to get money back, more money than I put in it in a short period of time. I don't ever want to leave money in real estate the old conventional way. And here's why. If you bought $1 million property and put up $200,000 down, like the lenders are going to want you to do, or more, that $200,000 is in that property until you either sell it or refinance it, which could take years. If you take that same $200,000 and invest it outside of real estate, we can get outrageous rates of return on that money, pairing it with real estate. So if you invest money outside at just a measly 15% annual rate of return, that money will grow 10 times over a 10-year period. It will be worth 10 times more than it is today. If I leave it in that real estate, I will get no rate of return on it because I'll get the same rate of return on the real estate whether my money's in it or not. Rate of return is measured by your investment and your return. So learn how to buy real estate with little or no money, and your rate of return will be infinite if I get my money back very quickly after I buy it. Everything after that is free money, if that makes any sense. So it's a matter of learning what to do with money. Only thing that I do with cash is put it in something that is going to get me more cash back quickly. I don't bury it in real estate because I can buy all the real estate I want without using my money.
Interesting.
Even in Canada.
So what you're saying is you find a property, you get the seller to finance it for you. You might put a down payment on it and you cover the closing cost.
Maybe. If I give them money, they're going to pay some of the closing costs.
Okay. Now, then within 30 days, you put a tenant into it, but it's not a normal tenant. It's a tenant who wants to rent to buy. Mm-hmm. So they put a down payment to you and they start paying rent. Mm-hmm. And if at any point they change their mind, they don't want to buy the property anymore and they move out, you get to keep the deposit.
Clearly spelled out in their documents and with front of an attorney. It's a condition of the option. Not only that, they're responsible for all of the repairs after the first 30 days. I don't do repairs on houses that have tenant buyers in them.
That's probably the most annoying thing as a landlord.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well,
it's quite incredible.
When a tenant moves out, that's an annoying thing to a landlord. When my tenant moves out, we have a party because we're going to go out and get another 50 or whatever it is and do it all over again. It's kind of like buying houses without having to buy houses. So
How often do you find that a tenant actually moves out and forgoes the deposit?
you and your listeners are not going to believe the answer to that question. Okay. About 10% of the people that I put in these homes actually buy these homes. Sooner or later, they move out. Now, I'm not going to ever make them move just because their option expires. Never. I got a house right now that the tenant's been in there 11 years and the option expired 10 years ago. Okay. They still pay it. They're still doing the repairs. Now, if they want to buy it, I'll work it out with them. I'm not going to prevent anybody from buying it that wants to buy it, but they just don't do what they need to do. You got to understand that people coming to me can't go to the bank and qualify for a loan. Credit, debt ratio, or whatever stopping them. I give them plenty of time to clean up whatever their mess is, and they can go get a loan if they wanted to. They just don't do it, man. And you're going to ask why. So I tell my folks, quit asking why, because that's going to drive you nuts. I don't know why people do the things they do. I just know that they do, and I don't do anything to hurt anyone at any time. They ask for my help, they'll get my help. If they don't want my help, fine, just get the rent in here and let me know when you're ready to buy or move. So when they move, it's not a bad thing for us folks who understand lease purchases. It's actually a good thing. It's another payday. But I don't ever want to do anything to stop somebody from buying a house if they want to buy it. But they just don't ask for help, and they just don't go do what they need to do to clean up the mess.
Wow. So what are some of the lessons you learned doing this for 40 years now?
Well,
what would you recommend or suggest to a brand new investor?
Well, actually, I wrote a book on that, and the title of the book is Lessons Learned. In fact, you might even be able to see it up on my shelf back there. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Up there in the bottom. Anyway, that book was about that thick. It should have been about that thick. So I just ran out of energy writing it. One of the big mistakes that I see people making coming in is that they give up too quick. They go to a seminar and expect everything to work out perfectly, as it was in a seminar. It's like any other business. It ain't going to work out perfectly, and you got to stick in there long enough to fix what little bit of problems you have. And in real estate, the problems are always a little problem, but they're big to the person that has them at the time. They don't hang in there long enough to figure out how to solve the problem. Not having money is one of the biggest reasons people don't come in, because they don't know you don't need money. And they don't believe it, of course, when you tell them. I didn't. I absolutely did not. But I learned very quickly that, you don't need money to buy real estate. A little bit maybe, because you got a little bit of operating costs, and you're probably going to want to do some marketing. And maybe they might get a deal on a house where you want to pay some closing costs, which is not measured in the multi-100,000. It's a small amount of money. Again, I get it back very quickly as well. I can put it on my MasterCard. Back when I was coming up, I used my Visa and MasterCard quite heavily. Put money in the house, do a deal, pay it back. And a couple of times I forgot to pay it back. So that's one lesson I learned. If you get the money, pay it back. So anyway, that's number one. Number two is be careful to whom you listen. Because I got a t-shirt that says the whole world is full of crap. And it is. You can't believe anything anybody tells you. And unfortunately, too many people are trying to get rich by letting broke people tell them how to get rich. It doesn't work that way very well. And, you really got to know that people don't want you to succeed if you dig deep. I hope the ones in your home do. But outside of that, they want you to fail miserably so they can wallow in self-pity with you. And show you how right they were when they try to tell you this won't work, this is a scam, blah, 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 blah. The country's full of those folks, full of them. And you got to ignore them. So I try to get my people to get a check as fast as they can. We call it the shut up check. Hold out in front of you, shut up, go away, leave me alone. And unfortunately, some of those folks have your last name. So if you're going to make this climb, you'll be surprised how hard it is to get other people to make it with you. They just, I can't tell you how many times I've reached out my hand to people that are close, even my own family. What an opportunity they have, and they don't use it. I quit worrying about it. Okay, I've done everything I can do. They know what I do. Well, they think they know what I do. They don't really, but it's kind of up to you. You're the only one in charge of what's going on in your house. So first you got to get the education. And to try to do this business without the education is downright ridiculous. How many businesses have you ever seen succeed when they have no idea what they're doing? I've had 6 restaurants, and I often use this. You can't eat at a restaurant and learn how to run one. Okay. You got to get behind the scenes. Same with real estate. What you see on the surface is not quite what is reality. So you got to get deep in and learn from people that have done it and know what the heck they're talking about. Because you're right there. Boy, the internet is full of folks who've done a few deals and now all of a sudden they're an expert. So be careful to whom you listen. And also, you have to manage your time. I teach time management, and I find that it's a big, big flaw. And the vast majority of people have no idea. Just go from one chaos to the other all day, every day. Nothing gets accomplished. Your phone is one of those big violators. We all live with the phone. My phone's sitting right here, but just because it rings don't mean I'm going to pick it up. And just because I get a message don't mean that I'm responsible for answering that message immediately. In other words, you got to choose who you work with. And I only work with people who want to work with me, and I make it a point. I don't want to work with anybody that's a pain in the ass. So I'll get rid of them quick. I don't care how many initials they have after the name either. They don't impress me. It just means they passed the test, because I've been around long enough to know that what comes out of most people's mouths, it just isn't reality once you get past their world. And if you take a look at the people that want to criticize you, you'll find out their life sucks. Man, it sucks. So trying to take it out on you. Long question. Long answers, isn't it?
Well, I'm always happy to hear a long answer to a question like that, because you can't live 100 lifetimes. So you might as well start asking the questions of the people who made the mistakes before you. Yeah. So hopefully, I mean, still doesn't prevent you from making the same mistakes, but hopefully you can avoid at least some of them. And I agree. Most people will not hold back on criticizing you, even though they do not have any track record. Mm. And most of the time, people with no business giving you advice will be the first in line to offer their advice to you and tell you you're an idiot if you don't listen to them.
Worth what it cost, didn't it?
Yeah.
Nothing.
My biggest shock was to discover that, my friends and family, it seemed like they didn't have my best interest in mind, because as soon as I've announced to them that I wanted to become an internet marketer and to go into business for myself and to be free and break out of the routine and the 9-to-5 grind, I wasn't met with, you go, man, like, let's make it happen. It was like, what? Are you an idiot? What are you doing? And then it kind of spiraled further from there.
That's normal.
Yeah. Were you met with support when you decided to walk away from your job and go into real estate full time?
Well, I was 35 years old when I started, so I didn't need my parents' permission. Didn't even tell them, for that matter. But no, I was not met with support. And in fact, everybody was telling me the same thing. And frankly, looking back, that might be one of the reasons why I succeeded. I just had to prove them wrong. I don't know which was top priority for me, probably getting checks, but that motivated me when I knew that I could do it, and people were telling me that I couldn't do it. So that's the reason I did it. And that's not just me, that's not you, that's a lot of folks. That's how they get started. Other people tell them they can't do it.
Yeah, I completely get it, and I see it all the time. I'm actually mentoring this kid right now, and he's being met with the same thing. He wants to start his own business, training soccer. And his mom, his dad, all of his family is just every day they're like sitting him down for long conversations. He's like, "Don't be an idiot. Go work construction." It's like they want him to aim really low, if you know what I mean. No disrespect to construction workers. I think there's a big boom in construction in general, but this guy, he ain't a construction worker.
I understand that. I don't get why I get why they give him that, because that's their mentality. That's the way they live. But why would I want to go out in the hot sun and work my tail off physically if I can find a way to make many times more money than that and not to have to do that? I used to be in construction too, man. You talk about construction, you ought to be down here in Florida where I live in the middle of the summer trying to build something and sweating all day. I couldn't take much of that. So I learned very quickly that you don't make money with your hands, you make money with your brain. And that's what we're doing. That's what you're doing. And this kid is lucky that he's got you, because think where he's headed if he continues to think like they think.
Yeah, the first thing I had to teach him was to go read some books. Like, I'm actually having to sit him down in my basement which is where I'm recording this right now,
Mhm.
on this couch, and I was like, "Did you read today?" It's like, "No." It's like, "Okay, sit your ass down, grab a Coke, and read." And it's like physically painful for him to actually
Yeah.
go and do it because he's used to physical labor, train and,
You
and,
know what?
and soccer.
I'm thinking about it. That's what got me interested in real estate was reading books. I think back, I read all kinds of real estate books. It got me excited. That's why I went to that seminar, I think. But man, that seems like 2 lifetimes ago. And I'm still buying houses, still do it. I have an acquisitionist that does all the work. I'm 77, almost 78 years old. I'm opposed to hard work. So I learned to delegate, which is another thing that you got to learn. If you're going to ever make money in this world, you're going to have to learn how to delegate because you can't do it by yourself. You're going to need help, not necessarily employees, but we got all that done. We got all the outsourcing done. We got the companies plug and play, do this, do this, do this, and you'll start getting checks. And some people actually listen to me, believe it or not. So
Some people
yeah,
do.
most people don't.
I actually told a buddy of mine that I'm going to be interviewing you, and he was like, "What? The great Ron Legrand?
Yeah,
Oh my God, no way!"
great.
Yeah, so you're famous cross border, man.
Okay. Listen, the only difference between me and others is I decided to actually go do it and not find reasons not to do it. And people look harder for reasons not to do it than they certainly, the same way when you're interviewing, when you're screening out deals, I have to guard against, tell them constantly, listen, you're supposed to be finding a way to buy it, not buy it. You don't make any money if you don't buy it, but people get scared. That's the biggest thing right there is fear. Everybody comes in with fear of something. And we have to kind of dig down and figure out what that is because most of it comes from low self-esteem, I believe. And that comes from a lifetime of not very many successes. So all it takes is a few of those successes and that attitude can change. And the next thing you know, you're getting cocky and forgot where you came from. Okay. Well, I never forget where I came from because I don't want to go back there. Igor, I've been rich and I've been broke. Rich is a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it still has its own problems, but better problems.
I don't say that. Rich people don't have any problems.
Well, I guess if you have a problem, you have money, and you can buy a solution, then I guess you don't have a problem.
No, not always true, but most of the time it's true. Yeah.
Ron, I know we're short on time because you're not so much a busy guy, but very protective of your time kind of guy. So I want to be respectful of that. I know there's a webinar coming up. Mm-hmm. What we would call the terms webinar. We're going to be teaching the terms strategy or the terms blueprint. Yep. And I wanted to see if you want to chat a little bit more about that.
Well, first of all, people have to have an idea what terms is, and I'm using that house. I think I explained it. We can earn it for multiple streams of revenue, not just one. And we're in it for the residual income. Mark that word down, folks. Residual. Okay. You want to work hard to get as much money coming in every month without you doing anything that you can. So pretty soon it will surpass your income, and then you're financially free. You don't have to have $1 million in the bank to be financially free, but you have to have cash flow because without cash flow, nothing else is going to work. And I want you to focus on that first. Now, cash flow does mean that big check up front, but that monthly money and all those other goodies that you get along the way will make you wealthy and make it wealthy very quickly. So terms is a business that I didn't even catch on to until about 20 years in. I mean, I didn't know anything about terms, but it just simply means you're buying the house from the seller by taking over their debt or issuing a new agreement for sale back to them. By the way, we have all those agreements. And then you own the house, but your goal is not to cash out of it right now. If I buy for cash, I sell for cash because I'm not leaving that cash in that house. Even if I borrow money from a private lender, I don't want to leave that in that house. It's higher interest and it's short term. But if I buy on terms, I sell on terms, which means to me to lease option the property, which you guys do up there as well. All right. So I'm setting up a golden goose. So as many of them as I can get set up, the faster I'm going to get rich, to be honest with you. So the terms is all about doing just that. It's step by step. This is a whole seminar on where you start, step by step, on how to find them, how to construct the offers on them, the documents that are necessary, and so forth. And then how to exit from the exiting is the easiest part of a house you're selling on terms, because 70% of the people who want to buy a house can't buy a house for whatever reason. That's our market. So when I put one out there on a lease purchase, it's not a matter of finding buyers. It's a matter of screening out and getting the best one that has the most money up front. selling it will be easy when you're offering terms, especially in Canada, because I mean, you guys do it up there, but nowhere near the degree that it goes on down here in the States. So you got a huge market up there. You're going to get some big down payments if you do it correctly. So I teach you how to get out of that thing and make sure you get those big down payments. And remember, all of this is without risk to you. Nobody's going to guarantee any debt, period, in Planet Ron, or I'm going to send a big old ugly guy named Guido out to your house with a big stick and beat some sense into your head. Because if we don't operate without risk, Murphy will show up. And if you can learn to operate without risk, just learn how you buy property without risking, don't guarantee debt, don't leave your money buried in it. And frankly, you'll have more to do than you can do. And I'm telling you, you got a better market up there than we got down here, because we got massive amounts of competition down here, and yet we still buy houses. So this terms course is all about how to do it this way. You probably won't run across anybody up there. I don't know, you live there, that actually specializes in terms.
I've never heard anyone do terms on this side of the border ever.
Look at that. Ain't that something? That's kind of like being Jeff Bezos in his garage selling books, isn't it? I mean, on the ground floor.
Indeed. Well, guys, if you want to attend this webinar, it's a free webinar to attend, and we're doing it for our listeners only. You can head over to igor.top/terms and sign up for the upcoming webinar. When you go there, if you're in time, okay, you might be listening to this like, I don't know, a year after we recorded, so you're too late. Sorry about that. But if you're on time, then go to igor.top/terms, and you'll be able to sign up for this free webinar where myself and Ron will be there to show you how the system works.
Okay, that's Igor dot top. Okay, that's a hard one to remember, man. You need another URL. Igor.top/terms. You got it. Okay, I had to write it down. That's hard it is for me to remember.
That's why we have the show notes, my friend.
I got it.
Remember.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, guys, again, you're gonna this free webinar that Ron's doing. It's a virtual webinar, so even if you're attending from Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Great Britain, Bulgaria, I mean, it doesn't matter where you are. This works everywhere. So, Igor.top/terms will show you how to pick the right properties, what to say in your contracts, the step-by-step approach to setting up your own terms deals, as well as how to exit those deals correctly, which is, like Ron said, pretty much the easiest thing is to exit the deal, because you get the down payment up front, getting the monthly rent payments. If they fail on their part of the contract, they forfeit the deposit, you get new tenants in. But the point is that we operate with no risk. We're looking to get some cash flow up front. We're looking to set up deals where it's huge upside for us. It's huge upside for the tenant if they stick to their end of the bargain. But if they don't, we carry no risk. We guarantee no debt. And then we just get a new source of income into the household, and we keep going. And most important thing to realize is that whether the economy up or down, recession, no recession, boom or bust, bear or bull, people are always buying houses. People always need a place to live. And even if they don't have the money, especially if there's a recession and people are really struggling to get, credit, then this is the perfect condition for a terms deal. Because what you're looking to do is you're looking to find tenants who can't qualify with the banks or some, lenders, hard money lenders, and you're offering them extremely flexible terms in order to be able to afford the house that they want to buy for their family. So it's a really cool setup, I think. And what I really like about it is that you can probably set it up as a system, just like Ron did, to do lots and lots of transactions throughout the year. And, you get the upside from multiple streams of recurring revenue. You get the upside from the value of the house growing and not carrying the risk in case the tenant fails to pay on their fees. So really cool model, definitely better than fix and flip. You don't risk anything. You don't have to take on any debt for that either. So Igor.top/terms if you want to learn more about that.
I'll tell you, there's some other things you're going to learn that might even be more important. One of the things that I dwell on is how to handle the conversation with the seller. I've got some time-tested and proven scripts that are very short and simple. In fact, you're going to spend less than 2 minutes on the telephone to screen out the people that do not want terms, which is the majority. Okay, we're not dealing with the majority here. One of the first things people have to get over is why would anybody sell on terms? I deal with that in there because trust me, a percentage of the market does for various reasons. And then I teach people to ask questions and then answer questions with questions. And therefore the seller makes us an offer. We don't make them an offer. I need to go over those with you quickly so they'll have a clue what I'm talking about. So my virtual assistants get all the information on the property information sheet for the students. Okay. And then you got to call the seller and screen them quickly with a script that goes something like this. Igor, this is Ron calling about the house we discussed yesterday. You got a minute? Or you discussed with my assistant? Got a minute? Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I see here that you indicated that you may or may not be interested in options other than cash. Sometimes, of course, we pay all cash, but it's always going to be much lower than a terms price. And there's a lot of advantages for doing that. So would you like to hear about those advantages? Or,
yes, sir.
So you're telling me that if you sell, you do not have to have all your cash?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you give me that answer, then I'm going into all the benefits of selling on terms, which I'm not going to do right now. But if you said, no, I only want cash, then you have screened yourself out, but I'm still going to ask you one more question. Well, if I did pay you cash, what's the least you could take?
Okay.
All right. Now, if I like your answers, we're going to go to a 3-question script I call $1 million script. All right. You said you wanted $480 for this house. Tell me, what is the least you could take if we agree on terms? It doesn't matter what you say. I'm going to say, is that the best you can do? You'll be shocked how far people will come down by just letting them talk.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So then we're going to go to question number 2. Now, listen, we usually buy with nothing down, okay?
Okay.
Now, you only got 2 answers, yes or no. If it's yes, I shut up and move on to the 3rd question, okay? Not talk myself right out of a deal. And if it's no, I'm going to say, well, then, do you have to have a down payment? And if so, what do you have in mind? What's the least you could take? You're going to give me an answer, okay? If it's too high, I'm going to beat you down, or I'm not going to go any further. In other words, if you're selling a $500,000 house and they want $100,000 down, that ain't going to happen. So I just tell them, well, listen, I'm not going to give you $100,000 on a $500,000 house. So we usually buy with nothing down. How close to nothing can you get?
That's a good question.
You're going to give me an answer, and I'm going to say, well, you're going in the right direction, but we're not there yet. Okay. So if I get an answer that is good enough for me to want to come out to your house, then I'll ask you the 3rd question, and then I'll make an appointment. All right. 3rd question is, well, listen, I assume you're okay if I make your payments until your loan is paid off?
Yeah.
All right, good. You just named me the term. Whatever your term is, my term is. Okay, which is the way I buy most of them. If you say, no, I don't want to go that long, well, then how long will you give me? You notice you're answering the questions and making me an offer, okay? And you don't give me an answer. And I'm going to say, well, listen, some people give me 30 years. Some people give me less. I haven't done one in less than 10 years as long as I can remember. Can you do 10? All right. So seminar over here. By asking the questions and getting them to answer the questions, they make me an offer. I don't make them an offer. And boy, if you learn that, if you just learn to shut the hell up and let people talk, ask questions, answer questions with questions, you're going to get way more of what you want inside and outside of real estate for the rest of your life. And actually, you've learned to carry on good conversations that people respect. Because I got 14 mistakes people make when they're making that call, and we all make them. And all these things that people can fix themselves if they just take the time to learn it. And I mean, it affects your conversations with your kids even, much less everybody else. So anyway, a lot to learn here. But frankly, the real estate business is not that difficult, and it produces. One thing I like about it, I have a very small overhead and I have huge high transaction value checks. Very few businesses can say that. I can tell you for sure it ain't restaurants, it ain't retail stores. This is a very unique business. It's worth your while to learn it and take time and fix all your little problems, most of which are self-inflicted in this business. And I'm running off at the mouth, aren't I? Okay.
All right. Well, don't give away the whole seminar. So, guys, if you like this, if you just like this little value nugget right there, go ahead and attend the free webinar at igor.top/terms to learn more about the system.
Yeah.
Ron, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate your time. One final question before I let you go is, if you could go back in time, let's say 20 years back in time, 30 years back in time, and can have 60 seconds with yourself, what would you tell yourself?
Well, I would tell myself to always get help and ask for help. Look, I'm a man, got the same testosterone you and all of us other men have, and we don't ask for help. Last thing a man's going to do is ask for directions, right? In fact, if it's working perfectly, we have to fix it, don't we? We can't help it. It's testosterone, all right? So get help and get out of your own way, because truthfully, there's not one thing you do in your business somebody else can't do for you. I'm a living example of that. I do almost nothing, okay? And that's in all of my businesses, not just real estate, and has been for quite a while. So get out of your own way. You can't grow without other people helping you, mostly outsourced folks. And quit trying to think you're so smart, because you're not as near as smart as you think you are. And you just take a look at all the really wealthy people that earn their wealth. They've all learned that lesson. Delegate and let others do what they do best, so you can do what you do best. And that gives you time to focus on growing your business and not putting out fires and taking care of all the grunt work that almost everybody does. And, you know, I still do a little of it, but I'm a master delegator. I mean, if it lands on my back, it jumps off quickly onto somebody else's.
Nice. All right. Duly noted. So this was Ron Legrand, everybody. Ron, thank you again. And guys, until next time we chat, have a good one.